Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Like tonight's film, this is 1970's The Sensually Liberated Female, and this is included on the Peakorama Big 2 Unit show, directed by Matt Clymer. Right there, folks, right there. The sensually liberated female unbuttons the sex revolution in titillating color, all new from the producers of He and She and Man and Wife. He and She is also included on this double bill right here, which I'll look at in the future on this page. The Sensually Liberated Female, as I stated, was directed by Matt Clymer. It is 65 minutes long and is from 1970. It is a white coder. This is a kind of a sexual education subgenre of hardcore cinema and sexploitation cinema. It was actually in many ways, easier to get these by. Because they were quote-unquote educational. Now, the interesting thing about The Sensually Liberated Female is that this film is, in fact, I thought pretty damn educational. I learned a lot of things in this film that I never heard of before or saw before. The interesting thing is this is totally a product of the sexual revolution. My gosh, 1970, talk about a snapshot of the sexual revolution. The Sensually Liberated Female is going to give you that snapshot. This is a film that is this is narrated. We have a host. If you know how much I love, kind of TV type films, especially TV sexploitation films like Mondo Erotico by Jess Franco, which I looked at on this YouTube page, Naughty Network, which I've also looked at on this YouTube page. There's tons. I love them. And I love when the host is not only leading you through things, but also getting involved in the action, sometimes masturbating, so on and so forth. In this particular film, the host has a classier vibe about her, although she is very sensuous and liberating. But she is leading you with her voice primarily and kind of bookending it with her presence in a classy, almost 60s type way. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to say that the movie has the 1970s tag on it, but it definitely feels like the 60s to me. And was probably shot in the 60s, late 60s. The Sensually Liberated Female is filled with music because it's a film primarily that is being led by narration over the scenes. There is no storyline to the film. The story is the education focused upon the freedom and literally the sexual liberation of females. The movie's so interesting because it is guiding you through the various aspects, and essentially the theme of the film is to break the hold of the Western woman, to break the hold of the American woman primarily, of kind of breaking that rigid, frigid, conservative, puritanical hold on her sexuality, on her orgasm, on her clitoris, so to speak, or literally, and to enable her to actually experience her sexuality without shame, okay? In essence, a place beyond shame, which I've also looked at on this YouTube page. But, just in title for this film is what I'm saying. A place to bring a woman to a place beyond shame. And so we will explore the female exploration of her own body through masturbation, through just touching, through what are the benefits of masturbation? Which could go to male or female, but what are the benefits of masturbation and self-discovery connected to masturbation and pleasure? Also, we kind of look at some different cultures in here as well in terms of sexuality within those different cultures. We take some, really interesting looks into, we have a section of the film where it shows women some workout moves. So it almost becomes a sexual workout video and how to strengthen the female body, how to strengthen the female body to enable sexual potency and even to enable her breasts not to sag too much. And so we have a section of the film where we're watching kind of workout moves, workout steps. Very, very interesting stuff here. And then also learning the different ways to masturbate, and then also the different ways to have sex, and the different environments and utilizing all of those different environments and all of those different toys and all of those different foods. We also have some great artistic moves with this film as well, involving neon lighting and fog and kind of a surrealistic vibe at times in the film, which you think about a film that has like an education vibe to it. The interesting thing is I would say that for some people who kind of are like, what do I do with this sexploitation film, or what do I do with this hardcore sex film? You know, now I'm just watching these people having sex. The interesting thing about the quote-unquote white coater sex ed type film, like the Sensually Liberated Female, is that you have narration going on throughout the course of the film. So this might be a great kind of bridge for someone who doesn't want to just kind of sit by themselves just watching a sex scene for 5 minutes, but there's narration throughout the entire 65 minutes of the film, and so you constantly have something to listen to and to process and to think about, which might be very interesting for somebody who is trying to bridge that gap. I looked at a film on this YouTube page also called Sex and Astrology, which also utilizes that same maneuver of the narration over the film. Now, the Sensually Liberated Female, there are some really wild things you kind of learn, you know, from psychologists and also, as I said, cross-cultural studies with sexuality, which I found very interesting. And the thing that I thought was pretty mind-blowing was the Benoit balls. I didn't really know much about them. I knew what they were, but I didn't really see it up close. The film has just real-looking people in here. This is one of those sex films with real-looking people. We have some kind of softcore vibes, but then we also have some real close-up vibes of vaginas and gynecological shots and rubbing of breasts and all of this. And then we do have some hardcore type shots as well, even an ejaculation shot, but it's not the kind of film where all 65 minutes is kind of quote unquote hardcore. And so you do have a lot of variety here. Some might even be simulated sex, but I would say the majority of the sexual activity in this film is really for the female exploration of her own personal body. And that is something that is not only hot and sexy for the viewer, but also very, very interesting thematically for a sex film. And we even explore anal in the film, and of course we explore kind of all the components of what a woman can do to for her body to feel good sexually, and what she can do to break free. So the Sensually Liberated Female is also kind of wall-to-wall music that's constantly playing in the background. We got 60s type, great funky type vibes, some very atmospheric type stuff, some very interesting stuff. And so it's all throughout the film. There's a lot of just kind of soundscapes in here that are kind of exploring sometimes just like in a surreal way, or the different cultures, or all of that encompassing, and of course the snapshot of the 60s and the sex films. And we also kind of sometimes take it to the streets, like just kind of are driving around the streets, because for the majority of the film we are kind of claustrophobically in a good way indoors, which seems to be like just a couple locations, a bed and such, but then we also kind of explore outside into the world of sexuality a little bit beyond the doors. This is 1970s, the Sensually, I keep wanting to say sexually, the Sensually Liberated Female, directed by Matt Clymer. 65 minutes long, there it is. Beautiful, beautiful film. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more, like the Sensually Liberated Female from 1970. Please feel free to check out my own personal films at youtube.com/poopy diarrhea. That's POOPY diarrhea. Thank you so much, and good night.